once you have kids, you say, hey, at a very young age, playing tic-tac-toe, that's a game. Playing charades, that's a game. My definition, everyone in the world is a gamer. You have to have the creative that speaks to that player and that user, which is a very tough task.
Welcome to Mobile Growth and Pancakes, a podcast by StoreMaven. We break down how and why mobile apps grow. In each episode, we invite a mobile growth expert onto the show to break down a specific mobile growth strategy, how it worked, why it worked, and what they would do differently. I'm your host, Esther Shatz. Welcome to Mobile Growth and Pancakes. I'm joined today by Bryan Buskas, who has been in the industry for since there was an industry, pretty much. Bryan, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Thanks, Esther. Great to be here. Great to weigh in and be a part of this podcast. And I've been in the gaming industry for the past 15 years. Had the opportunity to work network side as one of the co-founders and early players at AdColony and Rewarded Video to playable only platforms like App on Board, where I was the COO and one of the co-founders, to be in publisher side and working at billion-dollar publishers like Activision to small independent publishers like Rogue Games. So I love spending the time around performance teams and performance and data. That's right in my wheelhouse. But I've spent the last 10 years really focused on video creative and working with the biggest performance teams in the world, both gaming and non-gaming, to make that creative work and drive ROI and results.
Amazing. So you've seen it pretty much from every side of the funnel that we could possibly see, which is awesome. I guess first and foremost, before we actually delve in and kind of get down and dirty with creatives and how we want to look at that, what would you say is the biggest difference between being on the publisher side versus working more the agency side, the services side? What are the considerations that you're taking differently? How does that look?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think on the publisher side, I've seen both. 15 years ago, when I worked in console and PC games at Activision, there was not this real-time digital data. Postbacks and MMPs didn't even exist. APIs barely existed. So as you can imagine, there were challenges with real-time data and real-time trends, and usually we're relying on data from consumer studies and focus groups and retail numbers that you're getting from stores about purchases and pulling all that together. To today, where it's only been 15 years. When you're on the network side, right, you've got billions of impressions, billions of data points every day, every week, every month. At TubeScience today is one of the largest producers of performance video that's conversion optimized across social and all channels. We launched what I like to think of as 10,000 new video experiments a month, right? And those experiments generate mass quantities of data about personas and talent and barriers and objections to drive conversions, whether that's a free trial, whether that's an app download, whether that's a real money deposit in a real money game. You see so much data today. I think that's the most exciting part about being kind of platform side or partner side is you have so much data, unless you're lucky to be at the number one publisher in the world and have some of those big games, you have that kind of data. When you're platform side, you kind of have your foot on the, your finger on the pulse of trends across all platforms.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about the evolution of, you had video back in the day, a video ad, which probably wasn't auto playing even at some point. You were clicking or straightforward video where you're focusing almost like a TV commercial on ads. And obviously we've evolved past that. I mean, we're talking playables and live action and different features there. What would you say has been, if we're looking at today, where has this evolution led us? So how have we kind of arrived at the point today where we're looking at different types of creatives? What does somebody need to keep in mind given where we are?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's evolved, I mean, we've seen it go from 0, I'd say, to 1,000. And we're not even, I still feel like every day we're just getting started. So 10 years ago when we started Ad Colony and created rewarded video and learned about this new placement inside of games and worked with advertisers to build some of the very first mobile video ads, there was no measurement on the installs. There was no, everything back then was incentivized installs about clicks and rewards. But some of the earliest partners who we built creative with, we quickly saw, hey, these users coming in are leading to more organics, to more value. The users who seem to come in from a video versus an offer wall versus a banner or display ad tend to be more valuable. And really those were the first, I think, the first big publishers, the fastest growing mobile only companies and mobile game developers that figured that out, say, hey, something different is happening with video ads. And so that led to more and more video, obviously more and more video ad networks and SDK networks to even where we are today on the biggest social platforms. I'd say, if you were just to say, hey, Facebook and video, now there's, hundreds of different placements, contexts, where video shows up across the platform. And in particular, right, there's never a one size fits all, right? And so the biggest advertisers, the biggest partners are really leveraging, you have to tailor that creative, that video to that micro audience, sometimes even down to the individual player, right? Knowing why this persona plays the game, what they love about it, also what they hate about it, right? To be able to tailor native content to them. And even on platforms like Facebook today, we see with live action, we can run 2-minute videos in stream, right? In between, and people will watch, people will connect, people will engage, which, I think we've seen the evolution from just simple 30-second gameplay videos to complex, all sizes, shapes, and forms of video today. And then obviously with playables adds, a whole new interactivity piece to video, whether that's the whole video. We've seen brands launch interactive choose your own adventure type video. So you actually, pick which way that video goes in the commercial. If it's a car commercial, learning about the wheels or the interior or the speed and the performance, or a game, figuring out which part of that game, to playables today or end cards, right, where that offer interactivity on different networks and it really speak to different types of players, right? Why do you have to go download the whole game just to try it? Why can't you sample it directly in the video? And so I think that's super exciting. And that's what I love, is seeing the biggest gaming partners and publishers in the world, right, push the limits of interactivity and video across all the biggest kind of advertising platforms in the world.
So how do we balance this? I mean, you have this kind of concept of, I connect with what you're saying, where you can actually use, especially when you're in gaming and you're in an audience that you really recognize and that you know what they're passionate about. How do you balance catering a 2-minute video for that audience will never work on the broad audience or kind of a new to network exposure that you're trying to get. How do you balance this strategy of kind of speaking really to the audiences that you can grab versus trying to catch as many as you can with relatively limited effort?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think as machines have taken over advertising, right, and data and audiences, and we go through privacy, this whole trend really started 3-4 years ago, with GDPR and CCPA and where we are today, right? The machines have really taken over. So we see it as it really becomes a quantity type game for a big established advertiser to drive conversions and keep growing the audience. Because guess what? 2020 brought us a lot of things we didn't expect, but it brought us a lot of new first-time gamers. It expanded the pie of first-time, mobile gamers, right? So as an advertiser, if I put myself back in publisher shoes and I've got a game, right? How do I make that game, even appeal or even speak to this audience? I probably don't even have that much data, because these are like first-time gamers that came in this, once in a lifetime event that we all experienced last year. And so I can tell you at TubeScience, we accomplished this through scale and volume, by launching 10,000 plus video experiments a month and seeing what converts. We can build and combine videos with different segments, different on-ramps, different actors, different visual devices that we know resonate with these audiences. And it really becomes more science than it becomes art at that point, right? Yes, the art and the video and the creative does matter, but it's really the variety that matters. And, I think we've seen time and time again, games have to leverage gameplay. It's tough to sell a game with zero gameplay. Then again, for these first-time users, they're used to seeing testimonials and UGC and buying direct-to-consumer products that don't usually have that kind of branding or brand recognition, right? So they're used to trying things. So we see it really comes down to breadth and variety of creative. And I think, you've seen people even leverage celebrity, right? I remember working with the Supercell team, 6 years ago on the very first mobile game in a Super Bowl commercial with Clash of Clans and Liam Neeson too. I think in the following year, there were 3 celebrity ads for mobile games. And the next year there were 5, and now we're back to 0. Right. So there's definitely trends and different ways you can take video. But I think for all of us as consumers today, right, on social media with new platforms emerging like TikTok or Snap, it's not the one video that you can expect to work across all platforms. That's, if you found that, you found gold. And I'd say, back up the truck and your UA team's gonna love you. But, in general, there's so many platforms, so many formats that it really becomes a volume game and more of a data game and a science game than it becomes just purely a art game in building that, super polished 30-second trailer that, a traditional product or brand marketer would think is really the end game.
Yeah, I think that's probably more challenging on the publisher side, where you kind of, you really have this, the attachment to the game and the beauty of the brand, and the cinematic quality there. So it becomes very difficult to disconnect from the art, like you're saying, of creating a pure video that hits all your kind of company goals and your product goals and everything that you have there, versus it sounds like you basically have a bank of, these are elements that we can capture and these are different ways that we present, and how do we mix and match it, on mass scale until we find the right combination to hit each user group.
Exactly. Even for us in live action, right? We know, having cast, 10,000 plus talent into performance video ads, right? We know which talent works with which demo, with which persona, with which type of products, right? Whether that's a hair care product, direct to consumer hair care product, or a, match 3 type game, right? These things all overlap in a crazy matrix these days, right? But what people respond to, what drives that conversion. And I think in today's market, if you don't know that, if you're not running the quantity of experiments to figure that out, it becomes tough, right? It becomes really hit or miss. You say, hey, I tried live action and it didn't work, so I didn't do it again for 2-3 years till I brought in some new team and they want to do it again. Or I tried celebrity and I spent $1 million on a Super Bowl commercial and it worked, but it was like marginal. So I'd never try it again, right? But I think we definitely see all the platforms have moved towards more just native content, more personalized stuff. The ad on TikTok is going to look, that works for your app download or your game, is going to look and feel very different from Snapchat, even though as a marketer, you might think, oh yeah, they probably have common elements and similar things, but oftentimes it's something that's very different and has to be kind of built and tested platform by platform. Although there are those, gameplay type, experiences where, yeah, maybe there's that wow moment, that made it into that Super Bowl spot with Liam Neeson and Clash of Clans, or with Kate Upton and Game of War. But, maybe that's only relevant for your more competitive, your more, highly engaged audience. What about this broad set of new users that just came in last year who are first-time gamers on their mobile device, somewhere in the world? Because it is a massive quantity of new players, right, that just came into gaming and haven't been in gaming for 15 years, having seen gaming evolve from males 18 to 34 who live in their basement with their parents and, own a console and PC. That was literally gaming 15 years ago, right? To today, it is, I always play this game, and I would argue it's every single person in the world is a gamer. And I think, once you have kids, you say, hey, at a very young age, playing tic-tac-toe, that's a game. Playing Charades, that's a game, right? By my definition, everyone in the world is a gamer. Whether or not you play on a digital device yet, I think that's only a matter of time, because the quantity of games that are out there, the flavors of games. And so that's kind of where we are with video and with performance advertising these days. Is you have to have the creative that speaks to that player and that user, which is a very tough task. If it was just as easy as hiring the best creative agency and building that best spot and running it, on the brand side, it still may be to build that awareness or win those awards and help lift your overall metrics. But on a performance basis, it's a very kind of personal thing we see across all the platforms of what people respond to and what's interesting to them.
Do your KPIs change across, platforms? Do you find that you need to have different targets when you're looking at, say, a TikTok versus, Facebook or a specific gaming network? And I'd add even onto that, both by platform are your KPIs changing, but also by type. Do you have different metrics that you're looking at for a playable than you would for maybe a more traditional video ad?
Yeah, I would even go a step further to say, even on the big paid social platforms, by placement, right? What shows up in a feed where you're scrolling is very, very different than what shows up in a rewarded video opt-in view of a video, right? And what works. So I think, with playables has been interesting because having started a playable creative company and seeing the first versions of playable emerge on platforms like, I'd say, Ad Colony 5, 6, 7 years ago, they took engineers, they took tons of technical experience to build these things. And big publishers made them really popular. But today, right, clearly it doesn't work everywhere. And even on like your connected TV, right, where you see some of these performance ads these days, right, you can't run a playable on your TV. But you do see that you can drive different types of engagement, by placement, by platform. But to your question, yes, absolutely, right? There are different metrics. If you're in a feed-based environment on one social platform and you're looking at things like thumb stop and, what's sticking out to even open the funnel, you can't even get to clicks and conversions and downstream metrics like, ROAS. On other platforms, I think probably the challenge for marketers is really across all platforms. Everybody deduces something to a CPE or a CPA or a CPM, and they make it feel like it's the same across all platforms because we all see these same metrics in the reports. But when you get to the creative level, right, I think you see, and you dig in, you see very different things by placement, by platform. And so, yeah, I think most partners today will still test on big social platforms because they have the most robust data and testing platforms to really see creatively what's going to work. But you have to be careful. You can't say, okay, this worked on Facebook, now it's going to work on Snapchat or TikTok or whatever the new platform is that emerges, next year, Clubhouse. I don't know.
I was just talking about how Clubhouse, nothing makes me feel older on earth than Clubhouse because I have no idea how it works, or I just don't get it at all. And it hurts a little bit to know that I'm of that generation. But one of the things that I've been hearing also is, sometimes it's really connects to what you say. You have the kind of standard metrics that you're used to looking at. And when you're presenting in front of your, kind of your team of decision makers, you're kind of presenting CPI here versus CPI here and what's more cost efficient. But there's also, TikTok, for example, and YouTube are two examples of channels I've heard a lot of people say, we have a lot of people there from our audience, but I can't get the performance metrics right. And I think one of the things that a lot of companies are starting to say is, maybe there's not the direct click through, but there's a branding effect here. It's almost like an influencer. When you're seeing TikTok, you see a video, it might actually hit by sticking with the user in a way that's not about clicking on it as an ad, but sticking with it as a memory of this is something I want to do. And now when I'm thinking about the game that I want to play or the app that I want to download, this is kind of front to mind. And now I'm downloading not from a click, but because of this ad itself.
Yeah, I'd say even outside of games today, we work with a lot of partners, who are in direct-to-consumer e-commerce type companies who are some of the biggest advertisers on paid social. And yeah, for them, they're not selling you that free trial or subscription right out of the gate, right? They're selling you, take the quiz, tell me about your hairstyle and let's see if this product is for you. Actually, one of our partners just ran a Super Bowl ad. Speaking of Super Bowl ads, was Dr. Squatch, who's one of our partners, ran a big Super Bowl ad for men's soap, which is like super awesome. But, I think, again, like selling men's soap, on social and standing out in a market of, behemoth CPG companies takes a very different approach, right? To resonate with your target audience, right? Clearly, it's probably not all men care about the soap they want to use, but there's obviously a big pocket out there that does. And, why these companies are some of the fastest growing and most successful type partners. And you do see them even, at some point shift into brand, right? It's I think it's interesting because most big companies used to start at brand and try to learn performance versus companies today they learn performance, they grow the business. And at some point they say, okay, brand makes sense to kind of lift all boats and increase our conversion across all ads by increasing awareness, right? Or building an actual image for our company or our product. And that's, I think, very interesting. But to the point, most of us are transactional type people. We're used to clicking on ads and buying something or trying something. In the world of games and apps, 99% are free, right? So the only limiting factor I always say is the amount of space on your device and your connection speed, right? Other than that, there's nothing stopping you from giving a test run to a app or game, right? But I think the most successful apps and games in the world, obviously, they build the most successful, pages and conversion points on the stores that stand out. They have the best tutorial and user onboarding experiences. And oftentimes in video and playable, those are things that you can bring out or tap into, right? I think, playables, one of the approaches early on was to take even your tutorial and take it into the ad. So have the ad actually be your trial or starting the tutorial to pre-qualify you before you even, download the full game. And actually at App on Board, we did a similar thing with Google, where we had a very kind of public partnership around the try now button and instant apps on the Google Play Store, where we basically created so many playables for so many partners that we said, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if you could try an app before you deleted 5 others to make room to even try that app? And some of these games today, I mean, we're going crazy with file sizes and talking gigabytes and gigabytes, right, for the biggest multiplayer games that, I think the consumer is always looking to sampling things faster, has more decisions than ever before. So those are all the things that to me really stand out as how do you kind of pique someone's interest at that top of the funnel, but then how do you move them through that funnel, right, as fast as possible to get them into the game, to get them through the trial, to get them through the quiz and using the product, right, to drive that enjoyment, to drive that experience. Because I think that's what a lot of these games and everything are now selling is an experience, whether that's competition or friends or maybe just an escape. Mobile gaming is just a form of entertainment and an escape, 5 minutes of joy or fun. But to someone else, it's, that same 5 minute of escape is, a 5 minute competitive, minutes where they just need to disconnect. We're not riding the subway anymore and playing games in these short segments. We are actually playing more mobile games than ever before, whether that's first time users or, the most hardcore multiplayer, mobile gamers with the longest session times.
I think it's something that I think the industry is really moving towards, kind of naturally, but this idea that you don't just create a brilliant ad, it's not enough because the download is not the success metric for most apps. A download just gets you one more foot in the door. You don't get the commitment and you don't get the, kind of the revenue off of the download, meaning if you're setting up something on the the ad side and you're investing there and you don't think about how it speaks back to the product and you're not tying in that onboard. I love the idea that you bring in the onboarding for the app into already the ad side because you're starting that flow and it's just such a seamless transition. I think it makes so much more sense than I think the example that we always go back to is like the playrix. They have the meta game and the mini game, which is so appealing on the ad side, and you have to rely on the fact that the gameplay is that addicting that you can pull users through until they reach that point of what it was they were looking for.
Yeah, the only thing I scratch my head on still these days is this whole thing around like fake playables, right? Like the idea that an ad could be something so misrepresenting of the game itself, right? That you see an experience, it looks cool. You end up at the store, and there you have something that looks very different, right? You have screenshots and videos. And then when you download the product, you got something that probably looks and resembles more like store than it did the ad. But somehow there's always someone finding ways to lower CPIs and get clicks and get broaden the audience for their game. So that's mobile gaming, and that's what I love. There's always going to be a new way to reach people, right, and pique their interest. At the end of the day, is that your most valuable user who's going to back out on a day 7 ROAS benchmark? I don't know, right? But I can say 10 years ago, the download was enough. That's what we cared about because it moved you up the charts, and just fine downloads was the predominant way you paid for mobile ads, was on a pure download basis. To today, it's like CPI is basically, I don't know a single large performance advertiser company that really cares about CPI. It's not even in the top 3 metrics you really look at, because like, hey, this user, I'm okay paying $100 for this install from this high household income user, if I have a lot of signals that know they're going to back out to spend $300 in my mobile game, or some of these mobile games $10,000+ right? I mean, these are crazy amounts that people spend in these games, and I guess that's what I love about mobile games is there's kind of a flavor for everyone, right? And there's an onboarding point, there's content for everyone, there's different gameplays, experiences, and there's even new genres we invent every couple of years. Like nobody would have seen hyper casual come out of nowhere. There was no kind of data that would have said this would have become a big thing or a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? And everybody always says, oh, it's ending or it's going away, and here we are. Like it just keeps growing. It's like a big snowball that just keeps coming up with new ways and new content to build games that appeal to different types of users.
I mean, how do you innovate then? I mean, you've been seeing kind of the explosion from, we talked about the earlier days of the smaller scale of what it meant to kind of advertise in a new way. I mean, it's something you've been doing on pretty much every side over the last 10, 15 years, but how do you innovate in a market that is so heavily tested that everyone is kind of throwing into? How do you create something that actually breaks the mold, that sets a new standard?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and something probably every, in-house creative team scratches their head with, every head of UA, every CMO. If you're the CMO at a big mobile gaming company, right, and you're balancing brand and performance, and obviously it starts with the product, right? That's kind of table stakes, which unfortunately today in mobile gaming, let's say, right, is probably one of the most competitive markets in the world with, 2 million plus games on the App Store, 3 million plus games, and, tens of thousands launched like every day, every week. To, I think, and then privacy, like we mentioned, right? GDPR, CCPA, iOS 14, IDFA, all of this movement towards, less data, less targeting, more consumer privacy means that kind of creative is one of your last frontiers that you have to become an expert at. That's the one place you can really innovate, I'd say, as a marketer. And the good part about, I guess, every platform being run by machines and trained, on people and what we all like and what we engage with and what we use, is that the cost to test things keeps coming down, right? The cost to test keeps going down. Maybe someday it's almost zero, right? That you can literally, so at that point no amount of video or no amount of creative is going to be enough, right? You could basically test everything. And if you can produce enough, test fast enough, you can find what works. And that's what really drives innovation, I'd say, in the creative side, right? Is finding those things that can stick out. Maybe it's something that sticks out across the whole platform. Like maybe you found the best ad ever that can take over the whole network and share a voice for Ad Colony. Or maybe it's that one that sticks out in feed on Facebook, right? And you can take advantage of, lower CPMs and less competition and own that. But I can guarantee it's probably a totally different type of creative that you would only get through, especially with video, through mass testing, mass scale. And so that's part of the fun is I'd say being on the creative side is working with the internal teams who have been building gameplay and they know the products the best, and putting that together with all of the platforms and the data about what's driving performance. Because when you get that kind of synergy and you get those great creatives and those great minds and the data working together, that's where you can find, I think nobody celebrates a creative winner today, more than before. And every week it's almost more, right? If your creative team or in-house team or your external partners, right, create a new winning creative that's 50% better, that's a game changer for your business. That literally will unlock millions of spend, millions of downloads, millions of dollars in ROI and ROAS. And so the stakes for that winning creative had never been higher. But I think that's kind of like the last frontier at this point, as the machines have taken over and data privacy has become so consumer centric.
Yeah. All right. One last one for me. What is your favorite trend that you're seeing today? I mean, what's the coolest thing in your mind that's out in the world of creative today?
In creative, I'm really focused on solving this challenge with live action today. I mean, if you were to ask me 5 years ago, it's okay, celebrity and influencers, right? This is a super interesting category trend. And sure, yeah, if you can get that influencer who is really a fan of your product, who really plays your product to talk about it, right, on Twitch or on YouTube, yeah, obviously that's, amazingly valuable. But I think, in today's world, I've kind of seen influencer type stuff becomes less relevant because oftentimes it's paid promotion. It's not a real deep player or fan, right? Influencers started out, right, just promoting products they loved, right, that their audience loved, and there was a natural fit to today where so much of it is paid. So, I'm really focused on solving this problem with live action, where it's really mass producing scripted content. It's no different from the entertainment companies and OTT and Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu, right? There's so much content out there, and the same thing as there are 2 million, 3 million plus games, whatever the number is, right? Is finding new ways to make those creatives stand out and work on the platforms. And, I think even more exciting, what's interesting is seeing these new platforms emerge and evolve, like TikTok. We just became a, TikTok creative partner, but I feel like we're still in the early days, right? To understand the platform and understand how users on the platform react to ads and how to drive value on the platform. Not just clicks, not just installs, but commerce and transactions and return on ad spend. So to me, that's super exciting. But if you look at, I'd say the last two big social platforms to emerge, Snapchat, and I'd say now TikTok, they're all about user generated content and being very personalized and, for you, the user. So if you think about like, what is the ad? It's probably not that 30-second stock footage creative that's going to resonate. And if you talk to most performance advertisers, say, well, I tried that and I can't get, TikTok to work for me or Snapchat. But super excited about, what we've been seeing with partners as you build that personalized type creative, right? That puts players and users first. That to me is super exciting. And if you can mass produce that stuff, right? And tie data to it, I guess that's really where you're going to find this innovation. You're going to find a new breakout creative. I mean, I love it when our whole business model is about finding that winning creative. And so, just as the internal team is trying to, you got some great idea and you go in the next day and you build some awesome new, gameplay capture or create animation. We're doing the same, right? But we're doing it based on data, right? And I think that's exciting to look at those trends, to look at where consumers are going, because like yourself, like I'm a new user to Clubhouse, yet I was on there last night listening to, investors talk about Glue and the acquisition by Electronic Arts. And, it was going on for like 2 hours. And there I was, like, still like super interesting content and great that, what do ads look like? And what does performance and ads look like on Clubhouse down the road, right? Right now, there's just content there. But, as you see new platforms and new trends emerge, that to me is super exciting. But I'd say the world for performance advertisers is only getting, more complex to understand each of these platforms and how to drive. So, I think I see the best partners in the world focus on platforms and really build something from the ground up, not try to have that one size fits all type of creative approach to all platforms. I think those days have kind of long gone, and sadly, those same efficiencies you can't enjoy. If you look at partners like, the real money gaming space, I'd say like partners like Skills. I think you look in Facebook ads library, they launched like 2,000 videos just in the month of December. Like 2,000 videos, like that is a lot of content. And, I think that gives you the sense of the scale of where the market is today, right? Versus I've also been on the other side as a small indie publisher, right? Where, maybe I could build, 2 videos a week or 2 videos a month. That's a really hard game to play these days, especially in gaming where you have, the biggest creative teams in the world.
I think what you're saying really hits, which is it's not about looking at the world of advertisement so much as it's looking at the world of consumers. What's shifting now, not in how other companies are advertising, but in how people are engaging. And that, I think, is probably why you've made it for the last 15 years, kind of writing these different things. Bryan, tell me, where can people find you to learn more, to hear what else you're working on?
Great question. Yeah, the LinkedIn's great. I love expanding my LinkedIn network and connecting with everyone across the genres, partners, different players across the ecosystem, gaming, non-gaming, you name it. I am on Twitter and other social, and I'm learning on Clubhouse. So, maybe some point we'll hop on Clubhouse and, have a little chat. But LinkedIn is great, or email. Just brian.buskas@tubescience.com is a quick way to reach me. But I'm always happy to connect, always trying to stay on top of these trends and really be inspired by, all these biggest performance advertisers every day who are, putting data and performance first and foremost, right, to react to all these trends, all these platforms. That to me, that's what gets me up every morning. That's what, keeps me going, because I feel like we're pushing the industry forward in a very consumer-centric way with much more relevant content that's engaging and driving commerce, not just, 15 years ago in gaming advertising, at a big multi-billion-dollar publisher where I was, right? It was all about brand because there wasn't this data, there wasn't this scalable types of creative. And a lot of these platforms didn't even exist back then, right? Snapchat and other platforms weren't even around. TikTok, like none of these. So you look at where we are today, and Facebook's still, one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, and excited to see how people innovate there, because that if you can innovate there, there's big prizes for creative innovation and performance. But I think now there's 10 other platforms that are just as relevant or growing faster, right? That if you can figure them out early on, right, you're going to have a lot of happy, you're going to make friends with your finance department and other departments inside your company as a publisher, right? That, are going to unlock more growth budgets and more testing, more resources for you. And I think if I had to leave with one thing, I'd say, I come from the world where marketing was an expense on the P&L and your budget was fixed, right? On January 1st, your plan, you had $100 million in budget for the year, and it was no bigger or, no smaller, to today where all the biggest performance companies, marketing is a revenue driver because of all the data, because of the creative, because of all the innovation across all the platforms over the last, 10 plus years. To me, that's super exciting. It really is the new era of, growth marketing and performance marketing. And despite the hurdles of privacy and data and, machines, taking over, I'm confident that these are the best marketers in the world that we all work with, and some of the smartest, growth marketers in the world that have all the tools, have the data to continue to innovate and drive growth and success. So to me, that's what inspires me. That's what gets me up, and love talking to anyone about creative or, where they are, and collaborating across kind of all areas of the business.
Amazing. Bryan, thank you so much for the time, and really looking forward to seeing what's next, seeing what else you come out with.
Great. Thank you.
And that was Mobile Growth and Pancakes. To find out more about StoreMaven and how we can improve App Store performance, visit storemaven.com. And then make sure to search for Mobile Growth and Pancakes in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at StoreMaven, thanks for listening.